Mark Monahan is live in Washington County, where a guilty verdict has been reached. Mark.
Good evening, Rachel. Yeah, we're live inside the Washington County Courthouse in Fort Edward, where a jury of 7 men and 5 women found Kevin Monahan guilty of murder in the second degree today. It took them just under 2 hours to reach that verdict after a 2-week trial. A bit of a surprise that the verdict came back so quickly, but Washington County District Attorney Tony Jordan was not at all surprised by the outcome. What key takeaways do you see here, Tony?
Well, I think one, for the Gillis family and the kids, a sense of justice, right? As they continue to try to heal. The jury was very attentive throughout the trial. So I think the time of the verdict coming back, they were engaged throughout and they listened carefully. And the one question they had for a readback from the judge was with the difference between manslaughter and murder. And I think they were really in tune in the facts. And certainly ADA Morris did a wonderful job on the closing to stitch all of that together.
Was it clear to you that the jury did not believe Mr. Monahan? In fact, in his opening argument, Mr. Morris said, I was sound asleep. I wish those guys, meaning the police, would get out of here. Is it clear to you? Does this verdict make clear that they simply didn't believe Mr. Monahan?
Oh, I think definitely. And that goes to his, the depraved is the state of mind, right? The reckless was his conduct. His state of mind, I think that statement that Christian opened with, that captured who that person is. And so I think for the jury, that had to have been very powerful. And, they listened to his direct examination, meaning the defendant, and the cross-examination. And so much of it was just not plausible that, by the time they understood the timeline, the neighbors' willingness to be involved and share that information that they had, it left them with no choice but the verdict they returned. And I think the jury should be really applauded for stepping up and doing their job and returning a just verdict.
Finally, the Gillis family was crying in the courtroom as the verdict was read. You had an opportunity to share a moment with the Gillis family. What was that like? Oh,
it's really tough. I knew Andy before this. We know the family. That makes it an added difficulty. But we also know that this doesn't end anything for them, and knowing that makes it hard. But their relief that justice for Kalen has been reached, and they can continue with the healing. And I think knowing that people believe them and heard the story, I think that will help in their recovery and their moving forward.
District Attorney Tony Jordan, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Tony Jordan, kind enough to join us live here tonight. Also joined live by reporter Dan Levy, who's been covering this every step of the way as well. You gathered reaction tonight, Dan, from both prosecutors and the defense. What was your takeaway?
Well, first of all, Mark, as you made mention to, this was a very, very expeditious verdict. I don't think I've ever seen a prosecutor spend more time on the closing argument than the jury spent deliberating the case. Now, with that said, I can tell you that the defense attorney, Arthur Frost, urged them not to think of his client as an evil, wicked, black-hearted individual, but of course it seems like the jury disregarded that request. Here is what co-defense counsel Kurt Mausert told you, Mark, about the verdict just a little while ago, followed by a comment from Chief Prosecutor Christian Morris when I asked him if he was kind of trying the case for every parent in Washington County whose child could just as easily have been the one who turned up the wrong driveway.
The problem that you have in a case like this is when the police surround your house and they roll up in an armored vehicle, and I don't think anybody's at their best under those circumstances. And so Mr. Monahan said some things that he admitted on the stand weren't true, and I'm sure that came back to haunt him.
That's a hard thing to do. As a prosecutor, you got to balance a couple things. You have to balance sympathy, which you need in order to be zealous, and guard against empathy, which is what you're starting to talk about, not to split a fine hair on it. Getting into that circumstance is very difficult as a prosecutor. I think it gets you emotionally twisted up and you can't see clearly. So if you can stay grounded in sympathy, you can stay grounded in zealousness. And so that's something I have to put out of my mind while I focus on advocating for what the truth is.
And so Mr. Morris and everyone else will be right back here in this courtroom on March 1st, where the defendant is facing 25 to life for murder second degree, and then more time for evidence tampering.
Yeah, Dan Levy, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good work today, Dan.